This is not an ideal picture in any shape or sense of the word, but we have here a human cell. We have all of these pieces to a human cell, and all of these pieces have very specific functions. This aspect, or these parts of our cells that are known as organelles, react to the food that we consume, ladies and gentlemen. They react to our thoughts. They also, just to dovetail this in, folks, the human cell, and there's hundreds of thousands of these in your body. They make up who you are. They're the fundamental building blocks of who you are. Our cells react to the positioning of our assemblage point. Now, I don't really have time to go into exactly what the assemblage point is in this video. I've discussed it in a handful of previous videos here on my Patreon page. Please, if you're interested in learning more about the assemblage point, go back and look through my archive. I have probably 5 or 6 videos where the core message of what I'm trying to teach is, discussing the assemblage point. You can also pick up a book called The Art of Dreaming by Carlos Castaneda. And in that book, Don Juan Matus, the Yaqui Indian sorcerer that is found throughout many of Carlos's books, discusses in detail exactly what the assemblage point is, what its function is, how it works, and how it relates to human health and our ability to break past the barriers of the electromagnetic spectrum, and in doing so regain our enlightenment so that we are not living in a perception prison of sorts. I hope that makes sense. The assemblage point, in layman's terms, just to really briefly expound upon it or describe it, the assemblage point is a very specific part of our electromagnetic field, our energetic field, our aura, that dictates how our perception actually operates. So the thing about the assemblage point is it can move based on experiences in our life. Certain things can happen to us that move the positioning, traumas, certain exposure to certain foods, exposure to certain belief systems can actually take the assemblage point and reposition it. And in the process of it being repositioned, your perception changes. So to wrap things up, in a state of enlightenment, ladies and gentlemen, your assemblage point is torn free from where it currently is and put into a completely different position. And because of that, you are allowed to see past your blinders. When the Kundalini energy moves through your system, it forcibly moves the assemblage point to a new position where you can actually see more of and interact with more of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our assemblage point as a collective entity, the collective consciousness, most people, their assemblage point is in a very fixed position. And due to the positioning of their assemblage point, they can only see reality through a very narrow gap. And that's why people are mind controlled. Now, on top of the assemblage point being moved, we also have, as a form of mind control, the cellular system within our biology, within our physiology. Our entire cellular makeup has been polluted and damaged. They've especially gone after this particular region right here, folks, that I am circling right now on the screen, which is your mitochondria. This is, in layman's terms, the energy producer or the engine of the cell. But some of these things may not make sense. Unfortunately, with my videos, you kind of have to go back and watch older videos to make sense of what I'm talking about. If you are new to this page and you haven't watched older videos, you've kind of got to take some time and really get familiar with my content to make sense of some of these terms I'm using. But the assemblage point and its position dictates how the cell operates, because when the assemblage point is moved into a new position, ladies and gentlemen, through the Kundalini forcing it into a new position, the cell operates in a much different way. It becomes hyper illuminated. All of these pieces of the cell actually becomes hyper stimulated and actually changes its function and their activity. So I just want to briefly wrap up the assemblage point stuff and make sense of it. Let's see here, folks. Make sure I'm recording. I wanted to just say that the assemblage point, for those who don't know, in very layman's terms, is a particular piece of our aura, if you want to call it that. It's a part of our electromagnetic energy field, our subtle organizing energy field. We have around us, ladies and gentlemen, multiple layers of energy that encompass our body. It these energy fields coalesce and oscillate around us and hold our organs together. They pump light in through the different dimensions into our body and into our meridians to keep us healthy. There's so many different functions to our energy field, or what I like to call our auric shield, that I don't have time to get into now. But part of the overall blueprint, folks, of the human aura, or the electromagnetic field, the subtle organizing energy fields, whatever you want to call it, that there's a specific part known as the assemblage point, and it dictates how our energy field, the overall energy field, interacts with the dimension that we're in. And it also affects how our organs operate, the velocity of our thoughts, the speed of our thoughts. It dictates based on its position, because again, it can move, and based on how it moves, it dictates our perception based on where it's located. Again, I hope these things make sense and I'm not just blabbering. But the assemblage point is a particular part of our energy field that dictates how much of the electromagnetic spectrum we can see and interact with. That would be the easiest, most layman's way of describing it. Excuse me. It's like a governor on a vehicle. A governor on a vehicle, for those who don't know, is a part, I think it's inside of the motor. It might be part of the car's electrical system that dictates how fast you can bring a car up to speed. Most new cars, my mom's Honda, and as well as her Acura, currently, she used to have a Honda that had a governor, and she currently has an Acura that has a governor. But her Honda could only get up to about 105, 110 miles per hour. When the governor was removed, it could exceed those limits. That's kind of like what the assemblage point does. When it's fixed in a position, your perception is fixed in a certain way of perceiving based on where its position is fixed. The assemblage point likes to get fixed in certain positions, but it can move. And there are ways that we can go about attempting to get it to move. One way we do that is by going into our inner temple and doing the inner temple exercise that I talk about often here on the Patreon page. Links are in the description box below. But I want to wrap that up, but I also want to just kind of give you a brief definition. I always forget that I have this here, ladies and gentlemen. This is, we can say, kind of like a mock energy field. So if my finger was a human being standing upright in the middle of this, so imagine that my finger, not my hand and all this other nonsense, imagine that my finger standing upright is a human being. Around that human being is a three-dimensional fourth and fifth dimensional energy field that we can no longer see or interact with anymore, ladies and gentlemen, based on our programming and based on the repositioning and programming of our assemblage point. So you can think of this object here as our complete energy field. Let's just pretend that that's a Merkaba. Let's pretend that this is the Merkaba, the aura, all the different subtle layers of the human energy field. Within this energy field, there's a very specific part called the assemblage point, and it dictates how we interact with this shield. And right now, it's in a position, the assemblage point, where we don't even know we have an energy field. We have lost our damned minds, ladies and gentlemen. We have literally lost our damn minds. We are no longer who we were designed to be, and that's a huge problem. And I'll leave that there for a while. That thing's really cool. I've experienced states of consciousness where I've been given glimpses of the truth of who we were designed to be, and we were designed to be much more than that we're currently exhibiting. That's all I will say. But the cell, ladies and gentlemen, like I was saying, these parts right here, these get affected by the positioning of our assemblage point. These parts of our cell get affected by the foods that we eat. And last but not least, and there's, let me just rephrase that. There are so many different ways that our cells get unhealthy. And the health of the cell dictates the health of the human. It also dictates the health of the mind, regardless of what doctors want to tell you. The doctors think that the mind is completely separate from the body, pretty much. The mind is intimately connected to the body. The health of the body largely dictates the health of the mind. It's not the entire picture, or it's not the entire piece the hell is the word, what's the word I'm looking for? There's much more to it than that, I'll put it that way. But the health of the body largely dictates the health of the mind. Clean body equals clean mind equals clean body. But there's much more to it than that. We have to take into account the reality of the energy field. Taking care of your physical health is one thing, but we need a surefire way to get back into our energy field, into our Merkaba, into our aura, so that we can regain the codes to our divinity and escape this matrix. Some of these things may sound a little kooky, it may sound a little crazy, but oftentimes evolutionary energy does, or evolutionary concepts do, before they are accepted as truth. I don't care if I sound crazy. I don't care if people think this stuff sounds a little loony. It doesn't matter to me, because I know it's the truth, and the truth is the truth regardless of people's sensibilities, etc. So another way, ladies and gentlemen, that these cells are currently being fried, literally, is the Wi-Fi systems. The Wi-Fi systems were developed by people who knew exactly what they were doing. In the Wi-Fi systems, especially the rollout of the 5G, is going to rapidly affect the way that oxygen is uptaken by the cell. So we're living in crazy times, folks. Well, let's just put it that way. We've been lied to about what this world is. We've been lied to about who we are, what we came here to do, and what our purpose is. And because of that, and because we've been lied to for so long, it's become a commonplace thing we just believe everything that we've been told. And excuse me, after generation after generation after generation of accepting all the programming, it's become who we are. We are solidified. Most people are solidified in their programming. And we begin to break free from our programming in a handful of different ways. But one of the most surefire ways to begin breaking free from your programming is to go into your inner temple. Links are in the description box below for those who want to do this exercise. Begin communicating with your subconscious mind and start traveling in to the elemental gateways and working with each of the elements. They will, and they have the potential to, help rewire your consciousness and reconfigure, to a large extent, the way in which you look at the world and that you view yourself. In order for us to escape the matrix and to acquire a new belief system that's more congruent with the truth, we have to first have a system where we can go in and perform metaphysical surgery on our belief systems, on our mind, and on the deepest portions of our consciousness that are currently being suppressed or controlled. The inner temple is a way to do this. It's a psychic laboratory. It's your own personal, ladies and gentlemen, it's your own personal fortress of solitude. We all need a refuge that we can go into here in this crazy world and do some deep personal work.